welcome to the Broadcasters Podcast. Once again, King of Podcasts here with you. Thanking all of you for joining me here on the program. The website is broadcasterspodcast.com. You can find the show, of course, wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe to the show. Please rate and review Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, because you can rate and review on those, Apple and Spotify specifically, and Google Podcasts, and wherever you find podcasts. It's also on iHeartRadio and a lot of other places. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you're following the show. You never miss an episode. Every week we're doing the show right here, and this week, that's a common phrase. We're going to talk about the WGA strike, week 2 coming into it. We're going to talk about that. But first, feature story, I want to thank Sean Ross over at RadioInside.com. He gave me a couple of gems of articles to talk about this week, because obviously he has the same kind of mindset that I have as well. And it's about the state of radio now. I talk about this all the time. And let me remind you, the reason I do this is because of the fact that I, personally, the radio show that you listen to today, that's been on here for, what is it now, 5.5 years? And where am I at now? I'm at, 277 episodes. I guarantee at least half those episodes have been about radio, because that's where I came from. That's what I did for a living. What I do in podcasting, I still consider radio. It's podcasting now, of course. But radio as I knew it doesn't exist. As I remember, it doesn't exist either. I could try to recreate it. I can be one of those people that listens on Spotify, creates my own playlist, and I can talk up records, talk it up to the post, create a radio station that I'm wanting to be on, and put together contests, act like a different DJ. I mean, honestly, I am so much into, like, if I talk on my own, like, I talk to myself all the time. And so if I'm talking and doing the radio voice, like, I could do morning, afternoon, midday, afternoon drive, evening, and late night. I've done it. And I'll even do like a whole station. And whatever time I'm listening during the day or at night, I'm listening to Spotify, and I have my list, and it's a particular station I'm thinking of. I have the call letters. I have the name. I can do the call letters at the start of the hour, top of the hour. I do all that. I am not much of a radiophile. And I've done more than my share of listening to air checks of how radio used to be. That you can find it, you know. LSB Feaster, thank you for all the clips you put up there. Airchecks.com, Steve West, thank you for putting all those clips up there, because you honestly make me feel so good about where radio was. And I wish it could still be. But there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't happen. You know, ChatGPT, I decided to go ahead and use that and ask the question, reasons why new music on corporate radio is dying. And ChatGPT gave me this. I want to read this to you. And then we're going to get into our story, because Top 40 Radio, they're relying on throwbacks more than ever before. So new music and what's being allowed as new music is dying. And this is the important thing we need to make a point of. As I said before on this program, I can go back to past episodes, and I can talk about the fact of how discovery, and I've used that word several times. I'm going to just give you some reference. The new normal of new music discovery, back June 10th, 2022, and July 1st, 2022. Okay. Now, it was right after Stranger Things. This time last year, remember, Stranger Things came out, season 4. And Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill and Metallica's Master of Puppets, all of a sudden they got viral again. And Kate Bush and Running Up That Hill. Like, remember, how high did that song get? Let me just make sure to bring that up again. A Deal with God, Running Up That Hill. As remember, if we look back at last year at what that did, Wikipedia will tell me the story about how the chart came out. So the original release of Running Up That Hill with the number 3 on the UK singles chart, number 30 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States, 30. And it was Kate Bush's first top 40 hit. And then it received renewed attention when it was featured on the 4th season of Netflix series Stranger Things. The song's resurgence went up the charts around the world, and radio was serviced again by popular demand. The United Kingdom, the song hit number 1 for 3 weeks. 7 weeks in Ireland, Australia for 9 non-consecutive weeks. And on the Billboard Hot 100, it hit number 3. A song what is it, 27 years later? And remember, one of my most popular episodes, I talked about that. And the Kate Bush fans came from the woodwork talking about that episode and loved it. Like, I still go back and I look back and I was thinking, wow, people were so happy about that, because there was plenty of comments to say about that at that time. It was so wonderful. Like, I was really so happy to see that. And people just commented and loved it. And I was like, wow. And I go back and one more time, let me just go back to this again. When that song came out and went back up to the charts again, like, it was just relentless. It was incredible. And I never get comments on my YouTube feed. Not that many. I wish that anybody can still do that, by the way. Can still do that. YouTube.com/ or at King of Podcasts on YouTube. And a link is on the website. You can actually look at the videos. You can actually watch it from there. Broadcasterspodcast.com. Now, the comments, plethora of comments. Loved it. Oh my God, it was great. But then what happened was, those are anomalies. But that's a song from the past. But the thing was, for many people, it was new music discovered again. But that's because listening on the radio can literally be discovering new music again. Now, for those who were listening that were younger and listened to that song, we never really paid attention to it. But that song acted like it was new again. And it did. The fact that it was number one again across the board in the UK and all around Europe. And number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 of all. Loved it. It was fantastic. Still can't get over that. But Throwbacks now is something new. So back to the ChatGPT point. So over the past few decades, since 1996, the trend towards consolidation in the radio industry. A few large corporations owning most of the radio stations in the country, primarily interested in making profits, they often rely on a small playlist of familiar songs that appeal to a wide audience to attract advertisers. So new and innovative music is often overlooked in favor of more commercial and safe choices. That wasn't the way it was before. But radio people aren't running this anymore. It's salespeople. Bob Pittman knew what it was like. He was instrumental on a station that was about new music discovery, MTV. I don't know how much he's responsible for the integral parts of it. Or Randy Michaels, who was also part of J-Core Communications that ran several great radio stations of Top 40, disrupting the entire dynamic of what radio was in Top 40 radio. Top 40, not CD chart, Top 40. One of them being the Power Pick, WFLZ 93.3 in Tampa, which, a playlist, I can't even tell you how diverse it was and how different it was and how they were able to evolutionize every time they went across from 89 to about 95 into the 2000s. They constantly changed themselves, evolved, and stayed number one on the Arbitron ratings at the time. Arbitron rated number one. That used to matter. And the ones that would be number one would be the most creative, the most dynamic, and the most viral. That's how it used to be. Power 96 down here. Power 96 used to be number one all the time. Hot 100 before that. Number one. They stood out. Had personality, new music, and had a good time on the radio. A very good time. Lack of diversity is also a reason. Limited in their playlists. Same songs repeated throughout the day. Remember, stations will play up to 140 times a song a week. So you might hear a song every 90 minutes. It still happens today. If I went through Media Base right now, I could show you. They probably still do the same damn thing again. Always. Because that's what they always do. And for what? For what? Same thing over again. And why do they do that? Because they don't know any better. It's just a continuation of everything that's been going on. They just don't care. They just don't care. And so I can go in here in the same way. I can go ahead and look at the stations at the moment. And I can tell you, just do my call letters as I always do. Right? Let me just say you, WPOW, Power 96 today. They're 7-day. Right now, they don't play as much what they do, but listen to the songs they have currently new. CK Love Nwantiti. That song is more than a year old, right? Miley Cyrus's Flowers, which that came out at the start of the year. So 5 months later. Metro Boomin' Creepin', that song is 6 months old. So is Calm Down, Rima Selena Gomez. TQG, Carol She, and Shakira, that's old. Unholy, old. These are all current songs. Radio is 6 months behind at the least. Miguel, Sure Thing, that's because it got viral again. Safe song. Beyonce, Cuff It. Renaissance was last year. The Weeknd, Die For You. Doja Cat, Woman, and Vegas are also in their top 10 songs. What? And if I look at the throwbacks as well, I mean, you can go back, you just go older and older. So, for instance, if I go back on the list, okay, I can look at Lewis Capaldi, Wish You the Best. That's on the list. But their top 20 songs get airplay. The other ones don't. Look at the ones that are on the bottom down here. Okay, Rita Ora, Praising You with Fatboy Slim. How about NF and Happy or Lizzie McAlpine, Ceilings? Those are down at the bottom. Really? I mean, it doesn't matter. That's just one station. How about take the bigger station? Let me see, WHTZ. Just pull that up. Z100. What are they doing right now? Okay. All right, Loved Wantiti. This is the song that's number one? What? Do you understand this song has been out there for, I mean, how long have I thought about it now? Hold on. CK's Loved Wantiti. So you're telling me that stations are just catching on now to Afro beats? It's 2 years later. Listen, let me just make this point. Loved Wantiti, okay? That's a 2019 song. They're playing it because it's new to them. So behind in the game. Such a safe song to play to. And you're telling me they can't get this up here and get it playing? How do you do that? Released in 2019. In 2021, 2 years ago, the song charted in Europe, Australia, Latin America, and New Zealand. It was the first time we actually got really exposed to Afrobeats. In any way, shape, or form. It might have been underground, but this was the first song that went mainstream. Number 3 on the UK singles chart. And number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 2 on the Billboard Global 200. This song got charted 2021. Radio, 2 years behind. 2 good years behind. The music video was released in February 2020. First Afrobeats music video that passed 300 million viewers on YouTube. You could have been playing this song a long time ago. And you just decided, oh, we're not going to put it in there? What is that? Radio is so far behind. Even if they play news music, they are so late to the game. Because they're only going to take certain artists, as I said before many times, that are safe, that they are part of the system. So on their current list of media base altogether, if you look at the top, Selena Gomez, oh, she's in there. Okay, Miley Cyrus, she's in there. Weeknd, he's in there. SZA, she's being accepted now. Post Malone, oh, Chemical? Yeah, because anytime Post Malone puts out a song, he's in the system. Ed Sheeran, in the system. New album, he's in the system. Sabrina Carpenter, in the system. Taylor Swift, in the system. They're the acceptable artists. Ray's Escapism just started charting now in the U.S. I'll give a little credit. Okay, as a song that might not get in here right away, but people could have heard it a long time ago. But they didn't. And let me just look one more time. Kiss FM Los Angeles as another example. And right now, CK Loved Wantiti. Number 1. This song, 2019. And stations everywhere else in the world but the U.S. started playing it 2 years ago. 2 years ago. It's unacceptable. Are we that behind? Are American music listeners that dumb? Or is radio that ignorant with new music? Instead, they want to play it's just like movies. It's just like television. You can't go after new creative product. You have to take intellectual property. You have to take artists that everybody knows and familiar with. You have to play throwbacks. Because now you're a soccer mom station. You're not even a new music station. You're playing to an older audience that might still listen to the radio. You don't care about the younger listeners. You've abandoned them. I'm a broken record. Yes, I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. It doesn't matter. Spotify, Apple Music, their vast library of music, not limited by the constraints of corporate radio. They can let people discover new music based on the personal taste. Listen, every Friday, I hear new music all the time. New music over and over. Just going to wait till around midnight or so, Friday morning, and I can find new music on all their different platforms. I look forward to Fridays. I look forward to it. The music industry has undergone significant changes, rise of independent artists, and do-it-yourself distribution methods, making it easy for new innovative music to reach audiences without the need for corporate radio airplay. ChatGPT, so smart here. Robot's so smart. AI, look at that. AI even gets it. Even AI understands the real deal. So these factors have contributed to the decline of new music on corporate radio. It's important to note that there's still many dedicated radio stations and DJs who are passionate about discovering and promoting new music. Sure there is. Few and far between, ChatGPT. Few and far between. Okay? There might be a few that are a bit enterprise. I know, there might be, right? Let me think. What was the one I was going to look at? So there's a station I followed. There was a young girl named KP who was hosting in a market, Traverse City, Michigan. And all of a sudden she moved up to the top 40 station in Detroit. Like she moved right up the ladder. WKQI she's at. The 7-day at that station right now, Miguel Short Thing is most listened to. They're playing 107 times. Creepin', Flowers, Players, I'm Good is number 5. Double Fantasy, Weekend, that's a new song. Tuesday Favorite Song, that's a new song. We Can Die For You, Eyes Closed, Ed Sheeran, Kill Bill. That's a better list. That's a better list. Still, they have to play some Boys Are Liars in there. Escapism is up there. And what else is there? Baby Don't Hurt Me is now in their top 20. Okay. Jumpin' Pitbull John, Lil Jon just outside the top 20. That's good. I like that. But other stations can't do that. The iHeartRadio stations cannot do that. They're not allowed to do any of that at all. They're not allowed to go and do anything like that. They have to play something different. Let me look at a couple more stations just to get my point. WFLZ in Tampa, right? Die For You's number 1. Calm Down, Flowers, Short Thing, Creepin', Chemical, Karma, Last Night, Eyes Closed, Kill Bill. Good. It's a pretty good list. Not a lot of old songs in there. You know, that makes sense. I mean, compared to other stations around the other parts of the country, yeah, that makes sense. Let me look at Y100 in Miami, WHYI. One more. Let me look at one more here for you, just to go and just see what's going on. Okay. And there's Flowers, Calm Down, Kill Bill, Creepin', Short Thing, Waffle House is number 6, Jonas Brothers, Karma, Last Night, Nonsense, Boys a Liar. Okay, that's not bad. All right. But a lot of stations are going to just stick to, playing a lot of throwback because that's what they need to do. But let me go into this. Let me take the point of what was being said here by Sean Ross. Let me get to the featured story. Because he makes all the sense in the world. Sean Ross writes, is top 40 a thing of the past? So he talked about that COVID really made a big difference. He wrote about Z100 playing No Scrubs by TLC in 2016. I believe that's a song in 1995. Okay? 2020, we had throwback weekends proliferating. Radio now looking for any feel-good to offer listeners. And that at that time, he said that gold-based contemporary hit radio could become a format. KC 101, WKCI in New Haven, Connecticut, prompted that observation and didn't have any reason to fully transition. But then there was a station, Hits 97.3 in Miami, WFLC, that got over the three-way CHR war of attrition in that market. And then Sacramento also launched a station, KZIS. 3 flips in 2 years is hardly a groundswell, but then we started seeing hits and throwbacks approaches by other stations. B96, a mainstay in Chicago, has segued to that. And B96 was a heritage station and part of CHR's early 80s comeback. And the move came in a week when there were some great CHR success stories. But now there's a 50-50 mix of older and recent titles. Isn't all that different from what's happening at those stations that are staying in mainstream CHR. A lot of top 40 gold libraries go back to 25 years now. One CHR, he says, was playing Jennifer Lopez's Love Don't Cost a Thing. What is that, 2000? It's the first album she came out with. What are you doing? Now, he says that it's nice to see some stations want to pull some of the gold records back out. Sure. But the first goal of Top 40 Radio is to reclaim adult women. Daughters won't let them come back to CHR unless moms can enjoy hearing the car again. So there's stations like WIXX and KRZ in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. WIXX is Green Bay, Wisconsin. They lean adult and constitute some of CHR's biggest current successes. The dominance of older music and older sounds has been bolstered by a credible belief that new music sound of fans in any format have been siphoned away. Radio has given up. They've given up. And he cites a story from Radio Inc. that says that contemporary hit radio and rhythmic hit radio dropped 33% and 53% respectively. Overall, 40% decline. 40% decline. But this was also January of 2022, he said this. This is Larry Rawson at Radio Inc. that said it. Now, the landscape is different, the vibe is familiar. It's certainly possible that streaming and TikTok have so changed listener usage that CHR and other current base formats cannot rebound. I can only tell you the situation seems hopeless during every doldrums. That includes soft charts. I didn't see call out to know whether, say, Love Sneaking Up on You by Bonnie Raitt became 80% familiar in 1994, but it's one of many doldrums top 20 chart records that now feels like it never happened. Now, when Top 40 began to rebound in the 90s, the mid-90s, the traffic was moving in both directions for a while. Respective programmers telling the trades that we would be never returning to all the hits. Top 40 as we know it again. That was 98, 99, the very peak of the comeback. When most CHRs felt comfortable getting rid of their oldies weekends or not augmenting the gold library. And now the real issue is stations that stay. Too many three-share stations playing anti-hero and power for 7 months owing to a lack of other choices and aren't concerned. And other CHRs aren't trying to fight their way out of the doldrums by making it harder for all the stations that are trying. Stations that still take a full-fledged B96 or WFLC approach have an opportunity to foster excitement about current music. They should probably look at also that Throwbacks category and decide which of those songs are truly still exciting. Doesn't mean you can't do that. Doesn't mean you can't try. And better's better. Fixing the product is no guarantee for rebound, and there are stations that don't understand, that don't know why they're winning. Stations like KKBQ, 93Q in Houston, WXKS, KISS 108 in Boston, and KFRC in San Francisco tried playing something other than the hits of 1982, accepted by most other PDs. But there are still stations playing new music, they say. They cite two stations, WPAW The Wolf in Greensboro, North Carolina, and KSOP Z104 in Salt Lake City, the most aggressive people meter station in the market, in the format, winning a three-way country battle. And it helps that streaming new stars are developing personalities in a way that few CHR acts have. And that even with consolidations, country labels remain engaged with country radio. There are still concerns that it's too much viable current product, not too little. Well, part of it is the CHR stations don't want to play country music. They don't want to play dance. They don't want to go along with rock. They don't want to go with anything. Like they have eliminated the rest of the format. You know, there are no songs that cross over. It's either they're in the pop lane or they're not. The other things they say is that there's a half dozen new releases that are flips, remakes or interpolations of the 90s hits in his recent thoughts on country crossovers. They're part of a balanced diet. That's when CHR programmers have 28 viable and more varied songs to play and not 14. The original Eurodance boom in 86 and 87 contributing fun energy for now. But programmers want some other records they should help break some. Right. New music discovery. You don't have to be first, but be in the mix. Play what everybody else is playing. Play what everybody else is listening to. Why can't you do that? What is wrong with that? Why can't you go that route? And then he writes, and Sean Ross actually speaks with a programmer that talks about this. He speaks with Chuck Geiger. He runs stations in Alaska, Juneau, Ketchikan, and Sitka. And now he's evolved over the last 2 years, having a traditional hot AC to a yesterday and today CHR. So he says that he's about to celebrate 50 years next year in radio, the last 30 in programming for multiple formats. And he had a mainstream hot AC station, the soccer mom station, until spring 2021. Wanted to broaden the music and target under 25 listeners. The need for Kelly Clarkson, Pink, Imagine Dragons as sonic mainstays wasn't there any longer. It was more Dua Lipa, Justin Bieber, and Olivia Rodrigo. So they changed the slogan from today's best mix to today's hit mix. 2022, we heard from listeners that they want to hear old school and throwbacks. When they went to Seattle, they would listen to KHTP Hot 1037. Took the biggest songs, created a jam category, and programmed it 4 times an hour with setup imaging or open breaks in front of them. For currents, he tracked stations in the Pacific Northwest, hot AC, and top 40 stations. Notice the separation between the two formats and not sharing songs that they used to. We need a lot of recurrence. Only 7 to 9 stay currents and 11 recurrents. And then they talk about how KISS FM in Los Angeles has a great methodology for gold titles. So artists like Miley Cyrus, Rihanna, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, and more are in active rotation to reflect current songs by some of these artists or their standing in pop culture. And there's no issue playing, So here's what they were playing on the station in particular they're talking about. Mix 106 on May 2nd, 2023. Creepin'. They're playing Toxic Pony, which is a Lego and featuring Britney Spears and Genuine, the mashup of Pony and Toxic, right? Morgan Wallen's Last Night. Harry Styles As It Was. Boys a Liar Part 2, Pink Panthers and Ice Spice. California Love, Tupac and Dr. Dre. Lady Gaga, Bloody Mary. Rihanna, SOS. NF Happy. SZA, Kill Bill. Coil Ray Players. Shakira, Hips Don't Lie. Juke, Golden Hour. Yeah, see? Mixing it up. Not bad. So you're seeing kind of like a half and half, 50-50. Which is fine, but that's for an older format. Where's the younger format? Why are you giving up altogether? It doesn't make sense. But they're not going to do anything else. Nobody wants to care. And as long as it stays like that, it doesn't matter to them. As far as they're concerned, that's just the way it is. And that's how it's going to stay. There is nothing to be learned about it. So it's a shame, but nothing better about what they're going to do. It's a damn shame. Now, by the way, Fred Jacobs, the consultant extraordinaire, put out his tech survey, the 19th annual tech survey, the listening habits of radio's core radio listeners. 30,000 respondents presenting primary radio listeners, 434 commercial stations, average age of 55.5 years old. So they're learning that streaming and podcasting continues to trend up. Traditional AM, FM listening is flat. More of radio's work from home reality is an issue. When it comes to the cars, majority of the listeners are interested in features that display song and artist information and emergency weather info. Talent connection. Air talent continue to outrank music as the leading content-based reason for listening to a station, with connection to personalities most important to Gen Z listeners. And recommending radio to others, non-com rules. There's Christian and public radio formats outperforming all others in word-of-mouth scores. Rock, country, CHR formats are the most popular commercial formats. Streaming, home radios dwindle in favor of phones and smart speakers. Spotify is making gains at Pandora's expense as new media choices are the biggest pull from radio's audience. As subscriptions, they talk about here that broadcasters are considering ad-free streams of OTA stations, over-the-air stations, for nominal fees. A warning. Subscription fatigue is setting in. 88% of tech survey participants subscribing to video streaming service, or 64% to audio. So they think, well, why don't we just go ahead and charge like we're Sirius Satellite Radio? Why don't we just go ahead and give you music that's commercial free, but you're still paying us? Anybody want to trust that? Anyone? No, me neither. Me neither. Now, we talked about Odyssey had their state of audio guide. We've talked about that before. One thing that we're talking about that is that audio is now a truly multi-purpose platform. Marketers are uncovering the best kept secret in media, audio's ability to drive impact at any funnel stage. So there's 3 parts of the funnel. A sweet spot for the upper funnel. 95% of the population, and podcasting is often thought as a deep delivering audience engagement due to listeners self-selecting topics and titles they're interested about. So more and more brands are reaching target audience by host-read sponsorships, addressing addressable and programmatic cross-network buys to provide scale for podcast buys. So yeah, podcasting is the upper funnel of where advertisers can go and make money from, and programmers can make money from, and hosts can make money from. The middle one, shoppers entering the consideration stage. Classic demographics and audience targeting have made way for more sophisticated targeting. Ad frequency is a must, along with ad creative that entertains and engages. The lower funnel, radio. But that's where conversion takes place. Using a multi-platform audio channel, advertisers see 1.5 times the return on ad spend when digital audio is combined with over-the-air radio. So yeah, radio through your radio or your car radio, as opposed to listening through streaming. They think that is a 2-pack punch. 1-2. Right. Suggestions for advertisers. Think beyond awareness. Audio should be part of all media plans. Use all audio channels. Looking for efficiencies to deliver performance combined with as efficiency beats expensive and shrinking TV audiences and skyrocketing digital CPMs. Cost per measurement. Track audio performance. Every audio channel is measurable. Metrics can be incorporated into any campaign's key performance indicators. What are you going to do, right? So anyway, that's the story of radio. Another 30 minutes with your old buddy King of Podcasts, ranting away as I always do. We're going to leave it there. There's not much to be said. I think I made my point. Now let me go ahead and get into the writer's strike. Week 2. Here we go. So we're 11 days in as I record, and still at a stalemate. Negotiations are at a standstill. Members again fighting for fair compensation and benefits. AMPTP dragging their feet, not taking the WGA's demands seriously. And members are united with the Writers Guild, determined to see it through, and that's what's going on. So they have narratives that are going on. The Ringer reported about that, about the writer's strike. We'll take those real quickly and glom through those. One thing that's being made of as a narrative is that there's still constantly all the things going on right now with TV shows being affected, with pickets disrupting sets. We talked about that last week. And a number of TV shows being affected already. And also next season, what will be happening with all these shows as well. Who knows? And as I look at all the outlets talking about what's going on, underrepresented writers are talking about that the fighting for better pay and work conditions will keep diverse writers in the room, perspectives on screen, that there needs to be more of us. So this is talk about the Writers Guild, the part of the Writers Guild that wants to make sure diversity, equity, and inclusion are stand out, that they say there's a part that goes on with this. A lot of writers of color get stuck in their staff writer loop for a while, and they're freaking out about if they can pay their bills, pay their rent. If writers of color who are already underrepresented in Hollywood can't make a living from their work, there simply won't be anyone left to tell those stories. The Writers Guild Inclusion and Equity reported only 37% of TV writers in 2020 were black, indigenous, or people of color. Drops to 23% and 22.6% for development/pilot writers and screenwriters. And the word is that writers from historically marginalized communities are the first ones who suffer when the belt tightens. So that's another underlying thing to talk about here as well, that people need to consider when it comes to what's going on right now with the writer's strike. It's an underlying theme that they don't really say much about. Law enforcement is now using horn-blowing strike supporters. They're saying you may be breaking the law. Electronic Sign actually went out in front of Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, warning drivers that excessive horn use violates 27001 of the California's Vehicle Code. FBI Most Wanted filming was halted by WGA pickets in New York. That happened recently. Plus, Pretty Little Liars, the sequel for that show, Power Book 2 Ghost, Daredevil, Billions, P-Valley are among the other latest shows shut down by the scribes. So that's going on as well. The Writers Guild is going to picket David Zaslav, the Warner Brothers Discovery chief, commitment speech at Boston University. I wonder if the upfronts are going to get picketed. I haven't heard about that yet, but I could see that. Mayim Bialik leaves in the final week of filming of Jeopardy in solidarity with writers, but production will continue. And then there's the part where even writers, because of it's more of a men-women kind of thing, they have writers getting creative with picket line slogans. One says, quote, I didn't survive 12 years of all-male comedy rooms to have a robot replace me. Right? These are the things we're worrying about. Those are the narratives we have going on all together. Those are the underlying narratives. And one of the story I'll take in here was the Writers Guild, their minimum staffing demands, the underlying part that's besides the money. They're talking about the fact that minimum staffing demands were a key sticking point in failed contract talks. Wouldn't be the first guild to require them. So the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, now that I remember it's alliance and not association, right? The hiring quota that is incompatible with the creative nature of our industry. Directors Guild doesn't call it minimum staffing or hiring quota, but in its current film and TV contract, which they're going to renegotiate starting Wednesday. This actually already has started negotiation. They contain mandatory staffing provisions for various below-the-line members of the directors team, including unit production managers, assistant directors, and associate directors. Directors Guild already has that baked into their contract. So now the writers want this. Chris Kaiser, co-chairing the negotiating committee, told Deadline.com, Directors Guild staffing mandates and the proposed minimum staffing levels are similar in some ways, slightly different in others. Directors Guild contract is about the process by which a program is directed. Ours is about the process by which an episode or series is written. Not precisely the same, but the philosophy is. So there's more to this, and the links to this are on the website, broadcasterspodcast.com, or wherever you find the show. I'll put the links in there for you so you can check it out for yourselves. But there we go. We continue. I want to take one other interesting story that I thought was peculiar and nice to see. It's a nice way to look at things right now. In all this negative talk I've been talking about anyway, you know, one thing I will say is that one country is actually doing really well and might benefit from the writer's strike because of what's going on. Spain. Do you know how much of our content that we see for Netflix and Amazon come from Spain? Well, it all goes back to Money Heist, La Casa de Papel, which became the Netflix's most watched non-English series ever. I remember when people were talking about it. Man, I remember that. March 2021, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez unveiled the AVS Hub plan, where they would invest $1.8 billion American into Spain's audiovisual sector. There came a post-pandemic reindustrialization, and in this third year of the 2021 to 2025 AVS Hub plan, there's a question on how the entertainment sector can sustain momentum. So there are a number of shows right now on Netflix going on. You got Money Heist, Elite, and another show called Red Diamond is about to be adapted as a movie. Spain has been Europe's biggest beneficiary of a global streamer's investment, accounting in 2021 for a whopping 37% of their total investment in original European content among 10 countries, compared to 18% for the UK, 16% for Italy, 12% for France, 8% for Germany. Spain's online video subscription revenue is set to grow from $1.8 billion to $2.8 billion, so they're making money back on it. And the budget of Spain's national film agency, ICAA, will rise sharply to over $109 million American or U.S. for 2023. Film TV agency in Catalonia, ICEC, their audiovisual funding rose from almost $14 million U.S. to $45.5 million U.S. this year. It's great news. Spain, so more Spanish programming might be seen more in markets. keep an eye on that. So that's for me this weekend. I will be catching some movies. I'm going to catch Ben Affleck and Alice Braga and Hypnotic. And I'm also going to catch The Story of Blackberry, which fascinates me. Those movies are going to catch back-to-back at the theater this weekend. I've actually caught 18 movies thanks to my subscription plan with Regal Cinema. I love that. Never short of popcorn, never short of soda, never short of movies. Movies are so good right now. I must say I'm so happy about it. We got so many movies right now, and it's just ridiculous. Like, summer movie season's coming up. I might have to do a story about that, but I'm feeling pretty happy about it. And the movie's going out pretty well. Overall, what do we got? The weekend chart last week, Guardians of the Galaxy, $118 million domestic. Super Mario Brothers has broken the $500 million mark domestically. And as for altogether, $1.17 billion worldwide. Movies can make money, okay? John Wick already broke $180 million domestic, but then if you add that all together, they're at $416 million. Big money. And there's more to it that we could talk about. But now let's look at what the box office has coming up with the release schedule, because summertime's going to look great, man. Let me tell you what. Just this weekend, 5 widescreen releases: Book Club, The Next Chapter, Fool's Paradise, Hypnotic, Knights of the Zodiac, Rally Road Racers, and I said Blackberry is a limited release, but it's coming out, and I can watch it. Fast X is all alone widescreen release. That's going to make some big money. Then after that, you got 5 movies coming out for Memorial Day weekend about my father. That's Sebastian Maniscalco, Robert De Niro, Kandahar, got Little Mermaid with Chloe Bailey in the lead role, Burt Kreischer's The Machine, and You Hurt My Feelings. That's all coming out Memorial Day weekend. And then summer movie season is in full effect, and lots of movies to find. No shortage of it either. Let me tell you what. So I'm looking forward to it. Good time for movies. Good time for movies. I just wish there's a lot more going on to make people happy about. I'm just hoping for it. So we'll see what happens. That's the program tonight. Thank you for listening in as you always do. Broadcasterspodcast.com. That's where it is. Please make sure, if you're on the YouTube, make sure to go and subscribe to my channel, King of Podcasts. Please do, and follow along, because I put all my content up there, which includes the Wrestling is Real podcast, Depraved and Debaucherous, and of course this show. So I hope you'll do that and check in with me on it, and let's do it. Thank you for listening on to the Broadcasters Podcast again for another week. I appreciate all of you listening in. And until next week, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.